Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Valorant Challengers North America. We're day 3 of week 3 here. A lot of exciting things happening. Cannot wait to dive into another action-packed day. My name's Sarah Dawn. Joining me on the analyst desk yet again, we have Roy and Ash. Ash, we had some hella fun matches yesterday. We get 3 days of Valorant this week, which is awesome. I can't wait for today.
I can't wait for today, but some of these teams are going to be feeling tired going into a really important day of matches, but nonetheless, I'm sure they're fired up and hopefully able to carry some momentum from yesterday's games.
100%. And also, before we move on, I just realized like our coordination across the desk, we all got the red. Like
Oh,
we're
Wait,
on
we didn't
point
even talk
today,
about
guys.
it.
hey, Canada Pride, let's go.
Yeah, right? Awesome stuff. All right. All right. I mean, yeah, that's a great point, Ash, that you're bringing up, Roy. I mean, we're at the make or break part of the
hmm
Swiss stage. We're looking at teams today where two later on going to be qualified, whereas a couple of the teams, whether it's today or it's next week, we're looking at potential elimination or getting to the point of no return.
Yeah, I think make or break is the absolute perfect statement for this because some teams are quite literally going to make playoffs today and some teams will be eliminated. Obviously, not today's matches are there's no elimination today, but in the coming week, there will be some elimination matches happening. So I think we're getting to that point now where things are starting to take shape, teams are developing, things are, we're starting to kind of get a good picture of the power rankings.
Yeah, if you maybe some people's power rankings are a little in shambles, but I think a couple of the expectations we had going into this split, as we pull up the bracket, talk about it a bit more, are definitely on par. Because looking at our undefeated teams here, I mean, looking to that far left side, those are about the four that you would imagine make it that far, and then it's just TSM rankers still setting that undefeated record. Whereas for the other ones, Ash, I mean, there has definitely been some really, really close games, but that difference between that 2-1 and 1-2 for some of those teams is a little scary.
It's really terrifying. I think the competition's really close when it comes down to that kind of middle portion of our rankings right now.
hmm
And one of those teams, too, that we aren't going to be seeing on stream today, but Shopify Rebellion and Black. That is a squad where I think everyone kind of expected them to be maybe a little bit higher with how everything is panning out with these matches, with the results and whatnot. And it's just crazy to see such a roster that's dangerous on paper to be even down in that 1 to 2 round spot.
And it was a roster too that, okay, there's some newer pieces coming together, so it might take time. We're out of time, right? 100%. Like if this next match, we're still taking losses when we're just having the super squad on paper. It definitely is not going to be working out too well, but not the not the only team that's kind of sitting here with something to prove, because up next for our broadcasted match, I can barely talk, guys. We got QOR going up against Ambrosia, two teams that we got to see yesterday. Ambrosia on this main roster, but two teams sitting at this 1-2 record that, Roy, we need to see what they're made out of today. This is the chance to prove what they got.
Yeah, I feel like if you would have predicted either of these teams to be 1-2 and only getting their first win yesterday, I feel like I would almost laugh at you because on paper these are two pretty good rosters. They're solid players. They've been around for a while, and the fact that they've only just recently gotten their first win is almost a statement to the level of competition that we're seeing here in the event.
And I think that you also look at the win that they got yesterday was up against Hakikimori, who, give them the credit that they have done a couple of improvements over the past few weeks, but was looked at, the weakest team within our region, coming out from Premier and everything like that. And it was far from a really clean win coming out from Ambrosia. So we really got to see them kick it up.
Yeah, so Ambrosia pulling up that roster, talking a little bit more. That was a great thing. They got the win, but it wasn't the cleanest. And having talked to Screwface yesterday, it was something that he talked about as well. Like, they're happy for the win. Of course, that's going to be hopefully the momentum that they need Roy to be moving on forward, especially with the talented squad here. But that one yesterday wasn't the most inspiring. What can they do with that today?
Yeah, it was definitely a win, but it wasn't very convincing. I think we can kind of all agree on that. I mean, this match versus QOR should be a much better opportunity to, in fact, prove that they are on the uptrend, right? Especially with how decisive QOR was with their win yesterday versus SRG. And I think overall, Ambrosia, this could be the turning point for them, but I'm still not fully sold on what they're trying to sell me, to be honest.
Yeah, they gotta hit the books. They gotta kind of study a little bit, and it definitely has to be a fast turnaround to see what they can bring us today. But there's definitely that potential there. And we got to see a little bit of those moments. And it's things that are coming together. It is pieces that are coming together. The last 3 matches, they've been playing with the sub. They haven't played with that full roster. And they just need to have that confidence, Ash, as Screwface had talked about yesterday, even with this sub, to really be able to pop off.
Yeah, and I think your heart bleeds for them a little bit too, in that sense, where, you know, Screwface is talking about in that interview that, you know, Adder is like a great sub to easily slot in, but then it becomes difficult because you have to take that time to catch them up to the set strats and plays that you want to be able to make. And maybe it's not as comfortable as you would have liked, but like you were saying, still able to easily implement that in that sense, I think says a lot about Adder as a player and how this team is able to just kind of just easily integrate him in.
Yeah, and I think despite like the fact that they haven't really shown the highest level of team play, I can still see some of their ideas. I think their strategies overall pretty well established. They have an idea of how they want to play the game. They have an idea of what meta they want to try to implement into their team. So you can definitely see that they're working towards a goal and kind of getting everybody on the same page. And I'm definitely starting to see their picture forming. It's just for me, there's a big looming question of like, are they there yet? Because time really is running out for a lot of these rosters, and there's only so few matches that you need to start getting these wins racked up under your belt.
Yeah, so the fact that they go from yesterday, hopefully they can take that momentum from that win, a couple of the good vibes, and keep that win streak, you know, starts with 1, but be able to roll it into another for today. And 2 players that we wanted to talk about Satellite and Glyph, because when we're looking back at the match yesterday, we're looking at the confidence, we're looking at players that can get it done, Ash. Well, these were 2 people that we definitely spoke of highly.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like you look towards this dynamic duo and you've got to continue to keep your eyes out for it. Satellite has been great as far as being that tip of the spear for the side of Ambrosia, making that space and creating the chaos to allow the rest of his team to follow up. And it's Glyph who is enabling him to do that with the assistance from his utility on that initiator as well. And Glyph also played incredibly during yesterday's matches too. I feel like these numbers don't even necessarily fully do it justice there for Glyph, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Glyph was definitely the top performing player. And I mean, you have to keep in mind, this player is on a quote unquote supportive role. So the fact that he's a high communication, like micro type player, he's controlling the pack, he's controlling the flow and like the late round engagements, like, you know, deciding what fights to take, what are we taking, how are we countering, and as well as putting up the numbers that he is very impressive. And of course, Satellite being able to capitalize off a lot of these opportunities, off the perfect utility that he's being provided by his team. That's probably a big part of Satellite's success, is the sort of structure, and Glyph as well as the dynamic duo.
And that's going to be something that I look at today when we're seeing a team that they need to have that confidence to really be able to push forward. For someone like Glyph, who got the 6 clutches, who is able to still in these situations be able to shine, I feel like that confidence has to come from within, from your own team. And I'm really looking at Glyph here for that confidence to really be able to make the rest of the team shine there. But talking about opponents and talking about who they're up against today, when we're talking about how the quality of win yesterday, QOR definitely was a team that got to showcase a lot. And it's a team that has had closer matches these last couple of weeks. We've talked quite highly here, Roy, of the talent across the board. Darkus has been phenomenal throughout Challengers so far. Timotino just getting warmed up. But those wins have just eluded them up until yesterday.
And I think it kind of makes sense why they've sort of had a bit of a rocky start, to be honest, because they're swapping out roles for Logan, who was their former duelist. Obviously, with Timotino coming into the roster, he's taken on the full duelist role. Logan is swapped over to the info initiator role, and they've recently added Darkus into the roster. So it makes sense that they're having a bit of a bumpy start. But I think yesterday's match, with how decisive it was against a team that is so macro strong like SRG, I think that kind of shows that they're kind of going in the right direction. They showed a phenomenal Haven. They showed a phenomenal split. They even pulled out the attack op breach on Haven, guys. The attack op breach. That is demonic.
I mean, Darkest is demonic. So there's a, you know, I am surprised that I'm like, oh wait, yeah, no, he's too insane out there. He'll be able to get that done. But yeah, that's a team that even if these wins have kind of just been missing out just a little so far, that I definitely, when I look at this series, think they're a little bit more favored, especially to when we're talking about all of these duelists and stuff in the league. Timotino here, Ash, was someone that I was really hyped on going into this split. Someone that, even if those wins have eluded him, have still been able to cook. And I really do think once he's like super comfortable, like kid's gonna be a star.
Yeah, I think it's all about some of those adjustments going into this, right? I feel like we do see some inconsistency in performances, but that is also typical when, you know, a roster is kind of just adjusting to their chemistry, building up that synergy. You're not going to expect that to come out right off the gate, but when he is online, he's playing incredibly well. I would just like to see that kind of develop a little bit more over time. And you do have to give them the credit of they've had some tough matches to start off their season there as well, which honestly, I feel like is even better as far as a litmus test to actually build that chemistry up.
And build up some of this confidence as well. If they're gonna have like decent matches against some good teams here, it's gonna be something that you look at just a little bit different and kind of have that respect over on the other side. And we want to talk about that confidence. I want to talk about Logan and even call back to something that he said yesterday after their win, tweeting out, you know, we got this 2-0, played with confidence, finally starting to find our footing. And Roy, that is what we've been highlighting the most in the series. So the fact that they feel that after yesterday's win, I feel like this is going to be a core that's a little bit more revitalized today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just a sign that they're on the right path, right? Again, I want to reiterate the fact that Logan was a former duelist turned initiator. That's not an easy change, right? Like, yeah, there's synergistic roles, but the level of micro, the level of intuitive play, the things that you have to pay attention to, like, right? These are all very different. So it's going to take time for these players to get ultra comfortable to the point where they can even experience a level of flow state. But I think we're starting to see that sort of shift, right? Because you know, Nerve is a new to the IGL role. So there's so many layers to it. But I mean, yeah, we talk about Timotino stats. Yeah, we talk about Logan stats. But overall, I feel like this is one of the teams where the stats from top to bottom are very close in line. They're 5 very capable players that can all pop off. They don't need a specific star player. They just need to send their young zoomer in, make space. If they can get a kill, great. But otherwise, they have a lot of players to back it up, both in the late round and in the mid round, with many vocal players and many people that can decide which way they want to go.
I think it helps too that Darkus and Logan also come from that like old Northwood roster back in collegiate too, right? So that kind of adds that additional layer of kind of experience with each other that can lend really well to core. And it's all about kind of integrating that ability, that natural chemistry that they've already built up over time and having that synergize a little bit more with the rest of the team. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this core roster ends up doing, honestly, later in the season too, because I feel like they have a really good foundation to build off of.
Yeah, and if they can just get this win today, be out of the danger zone, have a little bit more time to kind of really make sure that footing is found and really bring things together, it's danger zone, but it's not 100% too late. But last head-to-head that we wanted to talk about, looking at this duelist. So the Timotino on this team yesterday, I was about to say on this core, but it's core. I don't. I'm sorry, guys. 3 days of Valor. We'll do this. Going up against the satellite Roy that we got to see quite a lot of yesterday. So this should be really exciting, especially too. I do love when we do get the map stuff where we get to see the Yoru v Yoru.
Yep, I think my favorite part of this sort of head-to-head that we're looking at is, one, this might be the closest stat difference we've ever seen on a head-to-head. 2, these are both very flexible duelists, so they're able to pull out the Yoru, which in my opinion is like the meta duelist right now. They're able to pull out the Raze, they're able to pull out the Jet without any noticeable difference in performance. They're able to pop off on all of these roles, and they're both very flashy riflers and oppers, and I think overall this should be a pretty high impact kind of duelist clash happening here in this matchup.
I love the call out for how close this is, because a lot of the times we'll see kind of the stats and then, okay, well, there's impact other way. But seeing on paper how close this is really just sets this up for, especially if Ambrosia plays with that confidence that we know that they can have, how close this matchup can be, especially in such a do or die time. But moving on, talking about the series for today, another big impact is going to be the map picks and bans and what we get to see coming out of these teams. Now that we've had quite a few matches under the belt, we can kind of see the vibes, what's been working for the teams. And Ambrosia, I mean, Roy, that's where we started talking about them with that Pearl back at week 1. They're going to pick it up for their first pick.
Yeah, I feel like Ambrosia is the pick for Pearl is the pick for Ambrosia, because this is the map they're really working on. You can clearly see that they're constantly picking it. They're very comfortable on the map. So I'm not surprised whatsoever to see this map come out. And of course, Haven coming out here for core, it makes sense.
I think also, like, going back to that first pick too on Pearl, after Screwface's interview that we heard yesterday, I would imagine that he's dying to really prove what Roy was talking about as far as what they've been cooking on this map, because
Hmm.
their Pearl did, honestly, they did take the map up against Hakikimori, but it looked a bit sloppy at times, and it was a bit surprising to see them not necessarily having as structured of a macro as we would have liked on this map that can be very unforgiving due to those like very awkward like fight locations, and then
Hmm.
also just awkward timings for rotations too. So I would imagine they probably did some bot review. They want to really lock things up and prove that they do have this identity on this map, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they're able to maybe completely change our minds from yesterday's game.
Be nice too, since they already have that identity and they already know with what they kind of want to go for on Pearl. It is just then the focus on, okay, well, just tighten up these rounds a little bit. We have the identity, we know what we want to go for. Where can we switch that up just a little bit? And I do love to see from QOR that we're going to Haven second map, considering that they didn't pick it either of their last two matches, but they got to see like a really good cleanup of it yesterday, and how
Yep.
they were able to adapt from going from Shopify Rebellion Black to Shopify Rebellion Gold, and that turnaround. So feeling more confident with it now. I think across the board, Roy, this is going to be a really fun map pool to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think if somehow we get to the third map, which honestly I predict we will get to a third map, it's going into Lotus, a map that both of these teams are very. I mean, they're having extremely good results on that map. I think overall, Core is 7-2 on that map. I know it's not all VCL matches, but on the other side, Ambrosia is 7-0. So it's a map that they're both very competitive on, and I think we should see a pretty good level of play on that third map if we get there.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting too because they have like that difference in duelist is like the main thing for Lotus as well. But it's going to be really cool to see just like the general adjustments for these teams. I'm hoping that honestly we have a little bit of a longer day. I think that these are really close matches
Agreed.
that we have on broadcast today. I want to see it taken to that third map. I want to see these teams pushing each other to that distance.
Yeah, this is a day where I'll feel robbed if we're not getting actual like 3 map series, if we're not actually going to be able to see the best of these teams coming on out, especially with how close this should be on paper, if we are seeing the best of the both of these teams coming out. But talking about our predictions for this series, for myself, I think
Okay.
just with what we've gotten to see in challengers so far of these teams, that Core just has that
Oh,
confidence, and it kind of seems like y'all are with me on this one.
okay. Wait, are we? Is this a curse? Is this like a unanimous death curse?
Uh,
This might be the first time we're all aligned here.
Well,
it
isn't
could
that
be.
boring, huh?
But it's also like analyst desk versus casters right now. Like we're ready to
Oh,
like duke
true,
it
true,
out at the
true.
moment. Heading into the ring against them. They can't even talk to us right now. Actually, they just have to listen to me talk smack.
I love that actually. It's a 3v2 against Vansui
Yeah.
and Lemon. I love that. Oh my god, it's gonna be a fun time. This is gonna be a fun match. I love it.
Jen already in Discord, y'all are going down, but like I'll need to see y'all back that up when we get into the match, and Ambrosia to back up what they were talking about yesterday, because when I look back at all of these different matches, I mean, Ash, one team has had more of that win factor than the other so far, and it would be so much fun to be wrong for today, do not get me wrong, but I'm just going off the facts of what we've seen.
Yeah, I think that, both teams do have the confidence that they've built up from getting those first wins yesterday, being able to try and carry that momentum over to today. But then it is going to be that litmus test up against each other because Core being able to take a very dominant win up against Shopify Rebellion Gold is nothing to scoff at. I know that SRG hasn't had the best results within challengers, but they are a very, very smart team. I feel like at times when I've gone back to watch the VODs, haven't even necessarily seen them feel like they've been playing like themselves. Definitely not where we know their ceiling is, right? And maybe just getting adjusted to being a part of this league. But I think that Ambrosia on paper is also a great team. But the difference in who they were able to take those wins up against yesterday are completely different calibers of squads.
100%, but we are waiting for players to get into the server, so while everyone else tries to scramble, change their predictions, I'm looking at you, Jen and Vans. We're going to be taking a short break. Get your snack, get your water. We'll be right back with our next match. Stay tuned. Ambrosia going up against QOR, two teams desperate to prove that they are not deserving of that 1-2 record that they're currently sitting at. And we're about ready to head into the first map of Pearl. Ash, we've seen a lot of this map coming out from the side of Ambrosia. Expectations, though, coming out from QOR.
Ooh, expectations coming out from QOR. I think that you look towards the compositions and
Yes.
they're pretty similar. On Pearl, I actually favor the QOR comp a little bit more just because of the synergy that you can have between that Tejo and that Breach, especially with those trap plays. But it all depends on kind of the idea that you're trying to go with on this map. If you're looking more for those trap plays to clear out those, to do that zoning and whatnot, or if you're going to be looking for a little bit more value in that information with the fade for Ambrosia.
Yeah, I'm excited to see QOR on this for their, I believe, Challengers debut here on our map.
Wait.
But we're gonna get some swapperoos. All right, Roy.
A little curveball. They've reverted back to the old cookie cutter composition with KO and Sova. That is really interesting. My first instinct says that this is not the greatest comp at dealing with what is happening, in my opinion, just because it's very hard to cash a Tejo with a suppress, and his ability to counter util and stop your executes is a massive point for, and in my opinion, an advantage for Ambrosia.
Yeah, and I think that there's just so much value in that Tejo comp as well to be able to clear out so much space with how small the sites are on Pearl. I know we were constantly talking about it on the broadcast and even in the green room yesterday when we were watching the matches off stream. It just like the fact that it's very awkward to try and hold space on those sites on defense. And when you're starting out on the attacking side, being able to clear out some of those angles early on can be so key.
All right, well, going back to the older comp, let's see if QOR is a team with a plan or if Ambrosia, it's going to be Pearl for them yet again. Time to head into our map number 1 and over to Vans and Lemon to defend their predictions and get us started.
Oh, she didn't hit us with the Vance Seaweed as we requested. Okay, you know, cut the vibe, guys. We have way too many Canadians, not only on our desk, on our cast, but also in this game. Two teams fresh off of a win, gonna see if they can make it a 2-peat. And we were chatting about, you know, Canadians, of course, but the excitement building around that rookie duelist of Timotino going up against Satellite's second split with the team.
That only makes sense to see Timotino in his roster for QOR right now because, you know, Ocean's at the helm as the coach. He's always been such a good coach finding diamonds in the rough, and Timotino has been the talk of the town around like the Montreal/Quebec scene. I remember going to like one of those Quebec lands where, I don't know, we're going to go way back here, but Kohler was actually participating in that tournament with Michael. And he was like, yo, you got to keep an eye out for Timo. This kid is going to go super far. And there you go. A year and a half later, he's playing over for Rose, switches over from like a initiator / KJ role over to a duelist role, and now has a spot over here in core on the defensive side. But we'll keep an eye on that as the action starts on the pistol round. Core is adding a lot of pressure with Timo at the helm on this B site. But Ambrosia, you can see they're already ready to go for a pop flash swing.
There's the flash. You couldn't get around the pillar. And this is just a firing squad. Satellite hit the aim trainer and now gets to do it in a competitive match. And as they chase down this last player, I'd love to talk more about Adder because this is technically a fill-in for Ambrosia now in his 3rd week, and Screwface is super excited to be playing with him, or even if it was Coburg from week 1. They're missing Acreon from an illness, and Ambrosia still getting a win off that is pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just see Snarly. Yeah, he's going to get taken down, and that's an easy kill. But for Adder's conversation, for sure, as a topic, even towards the end of like Split 3, where Dark Zero was back at Turtle Troop and they're playing over in Split 3, he actually already switched away to go back into into a Sentinel role and also calling for the team. So for me to see Adder go, picked up for Ambrosia as a sub, it just makes sense because he already has that experience as a Sentinel player. I mean, look at that. He's already got 2 assists from the double flash that they just utilize with Satellite to fight towards long, but also he understands the utility around the Sentinel. And also this helps for Screwface. If you're looking at this position right now from Ambrosia, they're playing a 4-1, so he could actually do a lot of information, take a lot of information as well for Screwface to have the final call and see how Ambrosia wants to rotate around this map.
Speaking of that, Core got control of mid. They were kind of wrapped through the off angle at A, and Smiley just with a rifle keeps the angle in check, and then you have the Yoru pushed up from Satellite with an outlaw. So Ambrosia really stacked up this right side of the map, kind of maybe reading that Core we're gonna dodge B based on the info that they've read that Adder holds the left side of the map. So let's go where the Sentinel isn't. And now Core got read like a book once again. We'll try for plan B, literally, and see how Adder can hold on.
Even a Prowler on the top of Spawn here spots the players going left and right towards Ivy. And the finish will be for Core towards this A site, but they did a good job here creating that stress over to Adder. He's calling for more help on that side. And now everybody's just playing more passively for Ambrosia. You don't necessarily have real map control for Core yet until you go for the hit, but there's still great delays from salvos that are available for Screwface.
And because you have the center of the map, you could start working the perimeter, and that really started to push Ambrosia their backs against the wall. Core about to claim the site for free, and Ambrosia playing for retake. I like kind of this change up. Core hoping to overwhelm them. Darkest at the front, taking early damage. Smiley wraps around, hits 3. Mechanically, these shots are fired from Ambrosia.
And that's a flawless for Ambrosia as well. And I think that's even the second flawless that they've gotten in 2 rounds. So that's pretty sick to see. But as you've mentioned, playing around the perimeter for Ambrosia, that was the game plan. It almost feels like you're creating some sort of a false hope for Core or on the attacker side when you have this mid control. You're like, oh, we could actually hit towards something. It'll be easier for us to hit towards that. But when you're playing against the salvos from Teo, the utility around the Astra, and you also already have control of A main with this position from a Satellite, you're actually boxing in your opponents on your retake on the defensive side, which doesn't give too much spot for Core to work with. So they're going for the gamble play to fight back towards the spawn. They get owned here, but thankfully, they at least get the pistol, the spike down here for the team. And that is actually something that's really good for Core because they need to build that economy up ASAP. As you see with this technical pause here, Levin, look at the death column. It's 0 across the board for 2 rounds for Ambrosia. So you know that the economy is going to be very, very good for this team to be able to buy a very strong round in the next one, maybe even bringing an operator out right away for Satellite.
And this is Core just looking uncomfortable, just having kind of these small things, these small, unfortunate, unlucky things if they could tighten up. For example, while they were on their way to B, just being too wide away from cover. If you wanted to just play more conservatively, especially against flashes, where is that Yoru? That's going to be the problem. And Core just way too wide from the pillar. That got caught by the flash, couldn't get into cover in time, to then crossing past the Astra smoke to just a sliver outside of the Astra smoke. You could see feet, and that's how Smiley was able to get those picks, already having info before Core even knew what was going on. So how can Core get info earlier on using Logan and maybe even taking things slower?
Well, that brings it back to the desk is what they were saying into Roy mentioning like this cookie cutter style that you're playing for core with this composition. So I do like what Ash brought up in the very first place when they were playing with this Tejo and this Breach. It was almost like an energy style that if you haven't been watching towards the off season, what core was playing with this composition, at least energy were able to get some good, you know, breach fault line to get the Euro up and get aggressive positions to fight. That though means that you're not able to find some early information if it's not for the fact that you're leveraging, your Euro to face check, or for your players to find ways to win duels as soon as they pick around corners or peek around corners. So with the fact that core switches back into this more cookie cutter composition, then you're allowed to know with like early knives and recon darts where this Euro could be playing, where you could maybe you could maybe disable him to be able to TP back when he gets his forward position. You could fight against Satellite at this point on the defense. So the idea around core now picking this on the attack side is really information gathering and potentially maybe a lot more slower rounds, with the exception of like the early hits that you're trying to deny the A orb control from the defensive side, which before we get into this technical pause, it seems that a lot of these players are leaning towards that area on the defensive side for Ambrosia, potentially trying to get Smiley and ult orb up as soon as possible so they could leverage on top of that a Euro with the Cosmic Divide for a strong retake in your bonus round. So the game plan is very sound on paper for both of these teams going into this gun round.
The only thing I'm worried about is, does Core know if Satellite has an outlaw? Because he went on this long flank, and I don't even know if he caught up to the action.
They knew. He was picking people off when he was playing towards that A main, right? Easy pickings, playing
so that's something to
so
worry about this next round.
Exactly. So you'll have to keep an eye on that, especially when it comes down to if Core is able to overtake site at this point and you do want to leverage, then there you go. I was going to say you could maybe do this Bogdan's Law to drop the rifle for somebody, or the outlaw for somebody else, so you could rifle and a retake. And they're already doing it at the very beginning. Satellite's already moving up with this Vandal. They have a long range with the outlaw, watched by Adder, and now they take full control of this area. So they know now the default is more leaning towards middle NA.
Off that early info, Core going to retreat and taking that slower round. This is what we wanted to see out of them, collect information, but when you do lack it, do not feel so secure. Play around cover, expect those flashes, and pushed up will be Satellite, who did give up that outlaw to Adder to hold the right side of the map. So Ambrosia just going to hold this corner, and this is good information, and right off of Logan, this is key. Forces out that teleport, and Satellite still gets hunted down at a distance, and Adder gets flashed up. This is the suppression Core needed to do.
Small little error. A Satellite pulled his TP a little bit too late. So as he TPs, he's out in the open, and the Owl Drone got info on both players. So it's just easy there for Timotino come out and score first blood. So a great start for Core to control this map. And as we mentioned before, aggression, slow the pace, now hit the A site. There's only one player inside the site to defend, and he just got suppressed.
Oh, and I don't even... Shock Bolt. Gonna force him to have a dance against Timotino. Holds their own. Maybe not secure enough until now. Rookie Duelist locking down 4. And potentially the ace. Screwface says no. And Screwface talked at length about the vibes that Ambrosia have off their first win, especially utilizing a sub and trying to get these new players up to speed. This is Core. Such a solid turnaround off of a tech pause, like not even needing to use a timeout to see how they could leverage Logan.
Yeah. Because at this point, the tech pauses, they can't really get their strats going during their tech pauses. You can't talk during those, but at least it allows for them to compose themselves in those first 2 rounds of individually, like, okay, we know where their opponents are playing. We know that they're playing fairly aggressive at the very beginning of these rounds for Ambrosia. So let's try to control the tempo on our side here for Core, which worked out pretty well. I mean, Timotino, you just saw him open things up towards that A site, and that's that firepower that we talked about in terms of the star power potential that Timotino could bring in this roster. And also potentially the reason why they're putting Darkest back onto this KO. The pop flashes for the jet dashes are going to be very, very potent as they're going to try to fight for A main at the very beginning with all this util.
Now that Ambrosia know that Core are actually going to check corners, go for info, and play things slower, you're not going to insert Satellite maybe in these core key positions, these forward positions for the order to bail out of, like a budget chamber. But Core have gotten a lot of free mid control, and they're being aggressive this time around, really changing the pace from last round. But this is the Vice site, and now you know it's also an off site. So Core approaching, Timotino working with friends, take down the back line, and also the dimensional drift that was with the Shotgun 2 satellite. Pops out of nowhere, Screwface, and his no-no. I was gonna say no-no square with a bunch of smokes, but he's gonna hold the high ground with Spike planted.
At least they were able to escape out, but Nerve is pretty much stuck alone here on this B site.
Oh, that evens up the numbers. And Screwface with both. Or actually Smiley with the assist, but pretty much both. The teamwork pays off. The IGL keeping everyone composed through all the smokes, to be patient, to wait for those to dissipate, for Ambrosia to have a successful retake, especially with an op still in hand.
And those are the things you're trying to bring out here that you're expecting from Screwface, saying, hey, can't wait to see what, to show you what we're being cooking up here on Pearl. I think just having that simple early TP from Satellite that goes all the way up towards Spawn, so they can help take control of the A site. They fight that with utility. They're able to get the Cosmic Divide on top of that, and then Satellite early TPs towards B to support Adder on that spot, on that B site, as Adder's responsibility is just to delay as much as he could. And that really put a wrench into the wheels here for QOR trying to accelerate into this B site, where unfortunately now you're starting to see that QOR building here, or Ambrosia rather, building the defensive side is starting to look like a problem for QOR as they're really good on these rotates.
Yeah, you just have to fade you till shot, so Ambrosia knew there was action mid, and I thought there would have been like a cool flash play out of Satellite, and he thought there was less people than he thought. But QOR,
Yeah, small beef.
first and second blood, that's amazing.
And this is actually a very interesting way to rotate your weapons on your attack side. Now they're playing double up on attack, but thankfully, Timotino does have the Blade Storm, so he could actually activate those to enter towards the site. But Snarly's already inserted inside B.
Now having to get through the obstacle course that is Vice, and Timotino opening things up with the knives. Screwface and Glyph, though, in position, and Snarly gonna call it out, even get info off the turret, allow the plane to go through from Logan safely. And Ambrosia, how do you work your way into this? It's gonna be up to Screwface.
Kent, this is
Deciding
so
not
hard
to,
to retake
yeah.
on a 2v4. You got to save your weapons for where it started really on a hot streak for Ambrosia here, Lemon Key, where you're seeing here in round number 5 that their economy is actually in shatters, in tatters pretty much. Adder is going to have what, maybe 2,400 going into the next round because he built all the way down to 0. This is their second bonus loss. So they're not going to have the best of weapons. So they're going to have to leverage as much as they could around not only the 2 Vandals, but the free util that's available here around Screwface with the Teo, around potentially even a seize from Glyph and a big flash from Adder for them to maybe crunch in onto QOR in some sort of a trap play. But if they're going to play a little bit more passively and allow QOR to work the map like they currently do right now, it's going to be not an easy round for them to convert with the lore buy that they have here in round number 6.
I swear at the end of that round, QOR had 2 ops and decided to drop 1. You know what would have been the real trap play? Double ops on B, okay? They would never see it coming. But, you know, 1 op is enough, I guess. Gotta be serious. Now you gotta start really respecting QOR, because they're starting to take some rounds from you. This is a lot closer than Ambrosia envisioned this, right? Starting this game off of pretty much 2 flawlesses. Will be an offensive op. Yeah, exactly, Sierra. 3 ops. Just everyone buy an op. If you get that rich, I'd be so down. This is Challengers. Really got to challenge the meta, right? But for
I mean, Rankers is already doing it. We'll see it next series. So it's going to be pretty awesome what we're currently seeing in VCLs. But for sure, just to get back on the topic here of what QOR is currently doing around these ops, it's smart here to just have Timo at the point once again a challenge towards the A side. This map, with the way that you're currently playing the meta, allows for you to insert so much with these smokes. Perfect. But that was a little bit overzealous by Snarly.
Just walking in really tunneled at that back hallway, and definitely a miscomm. QOR not going in together. Snarly gets caught. They're gifting over a rifle. Someone who started with a pistol, so QOR now going to explore the middle of the map because this really hasn't been contested by Ambrosia. They're going to leave a Vice wall there, which is different than how they were cutting off B initially. Then now they're doing it with Astra smokes. Of course, this gives them so many options of how they want to go throughout the map and even go towards the defender's spawn.
Yeah. It's something simple right here they're doing for Ambrosia. 3-player stack towards B, controlling towards A main, getting the wall for info, and then hopefully you could just try to get the perfect read for the trap in the front of B. So now you already see the drone coming out towards A main, so they want to make sure they don't get flanked. It's going to get hurt at least by Core. But the job right now for Screwface and for Smiley is just to contain his front part. So the back line could try to fight, but it's Timotino right there with the up that denies everything.
What a heads-up play from Timotino, who got, what, like 4 last round? Insane stuff. It's Canadian versus Canadian duelist, though, with an all-Canadian staff. We're like broadcast crew right now. I'd love to see how many Canadian talent are coming out. And look, he's still delivering on the fronts. And Ambrosia's retake came in from both angles and got shut down. It's just up to Smiley in a 1v3. Time running out. Needs to make a move. As the Rook gets into position, picked off yet again, and Ambrosia with back-to-back rounds will tie.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we'll have to see when we get back on camera if you actually wore red like the rest of us.
Oh, my bad. I didn't get the memo.
Oh, rip-a-roonies. But also rip-a-roonies on trying to hold that pulse plant on that retake. Or sorry, attempt to retake there as you contain towards the A main. Wasn't expecting here at this point that Timotino and the rest here of Core were going to push all the way back towards spawn. And he kind of got caught off guard at that moment when you're pathing a little bit out in the open and not making sure that you're securing and staying close towards the walls. But if anything, there was still a super late lurk from Nerve towards the end to seal the round for Core. So Ambrosia was not aware of this yet. So this is still a great opportunity for Core to put that in their back pocket to utilize later on and activate that late lurk here from Nerve. And that's why I was saying, like, this map right here allows so much insert around the Sentinel and the controller on this map on the attack. You can already see here Snarly trying to take control of the streets to get that first pick.
See, that's what Snarly wanted to do last round, but like with a kill. And just got unlucky, you know? So Snarly says, I got my one. All right, I'm not the problem. So Core, off that pick, rattles the left side of the map and will eventually pinch into A. Null command. Got Thorns with some delay here from Ambrosia, but we'll be holding the line. Ready to pop out of that smoke. It's a little too quiet. Now the Cosmic Divide from Nerve to just split up the site and may allow for a safe plan unless Ambrosia want to push past this. Smiley Adder 3-2-1 once maybe the grab wall is used, but how do they want to swing past this? First check from Adder wins that against Timotino.
You should run.
And it's a 4 versus 3 and you have a lockdown and Core don't feel as safe and guaranteed off that round, off the investment that they have made without Timotino. So a lockdown, just buy themselves the site. Ambrosia, look for picks around it.
Better plays a star on the ground as well for a suck. They wasted so much time with the double nanos. This is perfect here for Snarly, especially when Screwface already died. So there's no way you're going to be able to take the retake, especially after that pick. You got to salvage these weapons, and Adder was a little committed for a little bit too long there towards that dugout instead of falling back with the rest of his teammates. It would have been the smarter play. So unfortunately here for Ambrosia, they're going to have a broken economy once again moving into the next round. But I got to say, I love the movements that we're currently having here from Snarly on the attack side. I think, you know, throughout the week and even when the meta first started, there's always this big conversation of like, oh man, why are we still using KJ against a Teo, for example? And I know Roy is super against that, but you definitely do see at this point that a lot of these KJ players or Sentinel players are a little bit more forward with the rest of the team if they're not playing the actual lurk plays. And that really helps there to have the extra body to fight across because the responsibility is given to the controller to lurk.
This is how we end.
This is all 5 from Ambrosia stacking mid, and it's just a mixed up buy. Some sheriffs, some still have an op, and Satellite makes it difficult for Core to build momentum off the streak that they have built up. And having an offensive op still gives them options to try and play at range.
See what you did there?
What?
An operator, an option.
Little wordplay. That's all I can do. I got no hands.
It's still a good first blood that you saw here from Ambrosia, but it gets replied right away here by Darkest. I was going to say the idea around having this lower buy and leveraging a little bit of that ultimate that was available here from Screwface gives me a little bit of an EG style, right? You want to turn moments into your favor. Let's try to leverage these ults. Glyph is also very close to his with Adder. So there's an opportunity still to get the best value out of the operator and this Phantom that was saved from the previous round.
They're going to go to the same strat of playing as far back as they can, let Core walk in, play for retake. They just got to be a bit more reactive to the potential of Timotino extending and being aggressive as soon as it gets quiet. And Ambrosia are going to be on the approach. Satellite has to build confidence and really shatters the hopes of Core and the salvos to prevent the plant, but it wasn't successful. And Darkest adjustments, these stressful scenarios, he's got the flicks, and he may have just helped them get the round, but Ambrosia still have 2 left. But with an AWP and an SMG, this is going to be hell for Ambrosia to get back into.
Yeah, and a Molly and Suck available now for Darkest and there respectively. It's not even needed when Darkest is going to opt the way that he did. So Screwface is going to attempt to save this operator after they lose their second player on that 2 versus 3. But again, you just mentioned how Darkest he has the flick. For him to go into the site as a KO, to plant, to escape, and still get a kill with an operator, instead of being the back lines here with the knock, trying to watch the full line, and he's closing the gap too with the shorty because he can't go for the no scope with the op. That was hilarious. But yeah, it's just awesome stuff to see coming out from Darkest, and it's only familiar territory for him as well because he was playing a lot of KO in the past with Northwood. He's also switched a bit to a duelist role for a couple of these iterations of core rosters, and now he's able to be a full complete player for this roster as well. But this has been the main problem so far for Ambrosia that makes them lose these early advantages that they keep getting, because they're playing this solo sentinel role where they can't get active information from a turret or an alarm bot. You have to body peek down towards the street, and they're getting punished by that. So you see the adjustments coming into round number 9. They're leveraging this wall a little bit more and anchoring on the extremities. This now gives an opportunity for Core to actually work the middle of the map a lot better, which is why their double initiator will help in that cause.
Ambrosia is consistently getting a orb. I thought Core would have wanted to fight for that more. They threw a knife, but that doesn't really mean much. And Logan and Darkest won off of their ults, so they're just gonna keep away, go towards B, and just walking up off of maybe the vision being obscured, but the way that Smiley's playing around it, they put it up and then immediately take it down, and kind of gives Core a sense of security. They're trying to hug cover and wait for Ambrosia to peek.
Snarly just made another mistake. Walking through the wall, not expecting that he was there, but he hid in the corner, so he has an opportunity to maybe swing out for the pinch.
They don't know Snarly's there. So Core must have gotten a pay or gotten an orb for Logan. Hunter's Fury to just flush out the lane, and you're the angles for Core, and Adder back against the wall. Gets a 2-for-1. That's huge. Nightfall in response from the defense to help Ambrosia reestablish, and Prowler and more. Ambrosia forced Core back. Now we're at a stalemate. A standstill. Screwface waits for dimensional drift info before swinging around, makes the call on Darkest. Spike is down, and Core get caught out in the open, and didn't move, didn't react to dimensional drift.
Yeah, again, I think it's Smiley, or Snarly, yeah, didn't get activated here by the Vice wall. It maybe would have changed the tempo of how Core wanted to enter towards that site, because he was going to be, the final nail, trying to come in for the backstab while they're creating this ruckus towards this B site. But just having that wall up and him activating it, which is something that Ambrosia hasn't done in those previous rounds. So again, a great adjustment on their side. It got those 3 players ready inside that B site. They switched over in different positions as well and had some great fights and openers against Core's attempt to enter towards B. So I love this so far. And now you're starting to maybe call this timeout here for Ocean because of that little change. Now they're saying, okay, well, it seems that the players want, or the team here for Ambrosia wants to play a lot more passively and are giving up the middle a lot, and they might waste a lot of the glyph prowlers towards the mid round at that mid mark, at the 45-second mark. If we could avoid that type of utility and still try to go for splits from art, or from the art to extremities, or B street to extremities, they still have a great opportunity to overpower Core here. Ambrosia on the defense here.
You have such a good option of the Steel Garden to, well, if the site gets hit, Adder's going to create such great delay. And even for retakes, to swing momentum back in their favor, just with the better weaponry you create in that situation. We'll see if Adder can be the hero. Light shields, but it's fine. And how do you figure out where Darkest is going? Actually, they got rid of the op. I swear there was an offensive op for Darkest, but will be dropped, and no A-orb for Core either.
Yeah, they lost it, unfortunately, when they were trying to fight that 2 versus 3, when Satellite went under the ult to take them all down. So trying to go with the rifles instead to be a pack mentality for these hits. So you're starting to see the activation of the splits towards the A site, but not really walking into the streets. And Ambrosia are kind of just still ready and set up for that. They have the wall for passive info, and then they're just doubling up on the streets. So the crunch is actually going to be very quick for Ambrosia if Core decides on this A hit.
Oh, I like this lurk too from Nerve. It's going to be important to open up a main, but now you know where the op is. And Core is just going to try to make quick work of the site holders. So maybe they can make this op and non option with smokes, but Core lose every duel and they just get surrounded and conquered by Ambrosia's defense.
A big flawless coming out from Ambrosia. So this is the third flawless in the half for the team as well. In a 5-5 scoreline, they needed it because you're starting to see the comeback from Core from that round number 5 into number 8, as you see here in the history. But that timeout, unfortunately, coming out from Ocean just bit them in the ass because they were really trying to go for a stop and go towards this A side and just leverage around this null command. But you're giving so much value out of Satellite to just play on his own with the op, and the solo lurk towards the A ramp kind of just gets owned. So they don't have any more util, no more smokes to help out on the execution, and it's easier for Ambrosia to stay within the site and just crossfire against Core. So they tried again, this time as a 5-pack mentality, and Satellite is there to greet them again.
Just Satellite keeps switching up his spot, and Core just can't advance without the worry of, are you already sniping them? Core gotta find a way to get this op or to just dwindle Ambrosia's money.
He's got Starlink installed because he just knows exactly where his opponents are coming in, and he's always there to greet them and get the pick here on the first few seconds of the round.
Yeah, it's either around mid or it's around a main or an art and main. So it's tough for Core to just play this 4v5, especially without your Jett, who's going to be the one making that space, and it's going to be the one who's self-sufficient if there is ever any isolation from a vice wall or smokes breaking up your team. But Core can eventually decide to wrap.
That was a terrible knife. He threw it outside the map, so it has to be known here for Ambrosia that this had to be a fake knife from the get-go. So they still bite the bullet, though. They still over-rotated 4 players in the very beginning, but then finally realized just on time here that it could hold this spot.
Yeah, and it will be Core going towards A. Steel Garden activated. Ambrosia gonna stand and deliver. Adder already getting shot, and by his side is Screwface. Backfire. Darkest gets in the middle of them, but Ambrosia's so good at winning duels inside of the site, and Core just can't seem to break open this fortress up until now. Logan tries to be as impactful as he can now in a 1v2 with Glyph at 20 HP, Smiley 77. They're gonna work together. The jump and the shot. Logan could only get one, and just by a hair will Ambrosia get the defuse.
And this is going to be a game that continues to go back and forth. I think now I will agree with what the desk was saying, that this is going to be an all-out brawl and potentially move us into a third map. But the thing is that Lemon Kiwi, we still predicted here for Ambrosia, and we know what happened when the desk went against me last time in terms of predictions. They were wrong. I don't like to be right, but you can't call us out thinking that you're going to beat us on a 3v2 when you got me at predictions.
Oh, Syla is just a menace. I was really looking forward to this duel between those two duelists because Timochino, yes, rookie, but this is only the second split for Satellite. And on this Yoru mirror, that is very good for Satellite to bring it to Pearl. There's either going to be Fracture or Pearl for them. Ambrosia always go for that A orb, a lot more options of ults, and still a defensive op in hand. If left be pretty open, just smoked off.
Yeah, it's okay for them to play a little bit more passively, too, at this point, because they have the Armageddon available for Screwface. It's going to be very, very strong for their retakes. And if Satellite could also get a couple of picks, too, that will help into... Oh, well, he just missed the shot. Unfortunately, forced the TP away, but he could get his Dimensional Drift to add even more for the retake here for Ambrosia. And thankfully, with that missed shot, though, he gives a good opportunity here for Core to start closing that gap towards his B site and have the right numbers to try to fight back here. So you can see what's happening right now. They're going to try to sell... Oh, no! I was going to say, they're going to try to sell a fake over here by using a lot of util, and hopefully the Jett and the Astra could do something towards the push or the rotate. But you almost lost the spike, so Core is just going to group up together to fight towards B.
Ooh, Dark has thought about shooting it. He's been playing pretty good anti-flash, and now the smoke's in place, and especially that it's a one-way. This is great. But with the Armageddon thrown down from Screwface, Ambrosia have such good zoning tools, and Core don't have the spike. With the Cosmic Divide and all the smokes, it's how do you even step forward? Not knowing where this op is, when Ambrosia are going to come out, and what util they even have left. There's still some from Glyph, the Haunt, being thrown, explore this back corridor, and Nerve he's okay. He's waiting for them to jump out one by one because he's got a crossfire with Snarly.
Perfect.
And Ambrosia, the picks aren't happening. And Core just kicked down the door and managed to really stabilize the situation, not really hectic against them.
Got them.
1v2 though. Screwface. The vibe merchant of this team?
All missiles
Can he do
away.
it? Core had opposites of each other. And oh, Screwface almost had isolated the 1v1, but Nerve, he's too good.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great crossfire setup going out here in the first place for Core behind the Cosmic Divide. It was just missing now a little bit of that protocol out in the defensive end when you don't have too much util to work with for the retake to get information. And especially your 4 players are stacked up the way that you are, you got to use that jump bait, which Satellite did. But nobody followed behind that, and he couldn't go for the instant trade. So that was a little bit unfortunate. I think maybe a missed time in communication of how they wanted to retake that, but we at least have a clean slate moving into the second half. And now we'll have to see here if that double initiator is going to help them on the attack. Or on the defense, rather, sorry, for Core.
Yeah, this has become a very close affair with both teams going on small hot streaks. Starting off with 2 flawlesses were Ambrosia off the pistol. Let's see what they can do on offense. Just setting up, but Timotino just the one headshot to end Satellite, his rival. At least Ambrosia, you know, there's Cope, there's a silver lining. They got Orb, they don't got Spike, but they're figuring it out.
Yeah. And the buy is for both teams. They're just looking to play the long distance battle. Lots of ghosts, 1 sheriff. It's not going to be too much util heavy on the execution, but it could still be quite strong for what Ambrosia has because of the salvos, because of the flash. So now they just got to work around the map to break util to maybe force these rotate to get the best value that they can out of those free utilities coming through. Oh no.
Screwface caught looking at the stars. You hate to see it.
Oh no.
And Core, more than enough. It felt like they've secured the round. Spike has been recovered, so Core didn't exactly have eyes on it, but they're more than confident just off the util they have left to be able to zone off the plant. Now, still with the flash from Darkest. Ambrosia just will not... They're trying to catch Ambrosia mid-plant. Ambrosia are done wasting time with this. They are just evicting Core from their own site. This was a 5 versus 3 for Core, and I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. What just happened? Adder got so sick of this. And I thought, like, Core had full control of that round until they didn't.
That's what I mentioned in terms of Adder. Very comfortable in his center role, could still frag very well. And back in his previous role, he was playing a lot more initiator over with Dark Zero / Turtle Troop as the IGL. But yeah, you're definitely seeing the value that he brings and also capitalizing on the mistake that his teammate did, his own IGL did. I don't know why Screwface actually went out to try to break that dart because it was already going into the second ping. And if you're trying to leverage double initiator for salvo and haunt for utility, that haunt was still on the cooldown. So he just waited out at this point and he got caught off guard and forced Ambrosia to kind of just commit fully towards the A site. The spike was already there. It seems like the hit was going to be towards A anyways. But he just kind of gave his life away. Thankfully, it's salvaged. That's 2 pistols now for Ambrosia. And Core, it's going to be a difficult one for them to try to win here because the strongest weapon that they have is all across the site towards this B site for Timotino with the Marshal, while the other 2 only have 2 classics, or I guess a sheriff and a classic to work with inside A.
Portal closed.
Now it's just all that info given over just from one silly little butter knife from Darkest. Just... You gotta abandon the plan. The jig is up for Ambrosia, and they have to re-clear through mid. And this was a good start, but with a Yoru, and especially without Clone, I was worried about how they were gonna take space with the potential of being isolated from each other with smokes. And oh, what was that? Who dropped that? Timotino's like, wait a minute. Hide and seek. And now the headshot on Glyph is disgusting. That's best case scenario for him.
100%. Still getting one before he drops when he's getting pinged out by the drone. You'll take it anytime. And Darkies is already trying to close that gap, trying to play through this smoke.
30 seconds left.
Still good.
Oh, and now with the SMGs up close, this is huge for Ambrosia. They're taking up all the space they can, and they've built confidence off that pistol round, so...
We're definitely cooking. This is a lot of cut noise back to the B site, got caught off guard, and now with 10 seconds left, at least they'll have a free plant. But they're scrambling here for this round for Ambrosia. I mentioned it was going to be a difficult round, but it was a little bit of an overcall to try to rotate back towards B at the very beginning. Now it's a 3 submachine rifle for the retake or for the pulse plant.
Oh. Was it up? I don't blame him. Darkest is better with the op. Yeah, Ambrosia burned a lot of calories getting around this map from A to B to B to A, and see if this will be the one. Score kind of needed to just be able to pre-aim with the sheriffs, because that's a lot easier than trying to push in with it. And Nerve, oh, he is an SMG, and he's down to 10 HP and 2, and Logan, by the skin of his teeth, will get away with this, and this is the equalizer. What? Oh,
Yeah.
we had a 0.01 last week, and now it's 0.47. It's so unlucky.
If anything, though, the silver lining is that QOR definitely did make Ambrosia work for their money for the round, for the plant, and for the victory. That said, I mean, I don't understand how they were still able to all drop, all of them playing on the outside when Darkest is already picked from the flank. So you would know where the last two players would be. You still have three players that could ping pong swing and go for the 3-2-1 just to make sure that you can try to take down your opponents here on a tap. And QOR made them sweat here for that round. That's, you can see it right now, shows that their bonus round is not going to be the greatest. Thankfully, it's still Satellite with a rifle and has been on point so far in this game. If you're looking at the head-to-head here that the desk was talking about between both duelists here, Satellite and Timotino, it's still looking pretty good for both of these guys. So Satellite could still open things up here for the team, and you could maybe still buy roughly around like a smaller buy here for Screwface and Adder to leverage and support the rifle round. Or the rifle buy.
Yeah, and we get some collegiate brethren of Winthrop versus Shopify Rebellion Black. That, speaking of sweat, there's a lot going on over there. Winthrop are keeping things really close, and remember, it's Logan and Darkest that played on Northwoods, so they were a pretty good team, but Winthrop, excited to see how they're going to fare against one of the most fearsome teams we have in Challengers.
Yeah.
While we get things all sorted up in this lobby.
It'll definitely be a game that's important here for Screwface in terms of, I'm just speculating at this point and just trying to create drama. But if Screwface is able to close things out here with Ambrosia against QOR and seeing that Winthrop University will lose against Shopify Rebellion, he's still going to be very happy that he made the decision to join Ambrosia when things didn't work out with him IGLing over on the side of Winthrop University. That said, though, it still looks pretty good on how Ambrosia has been developing themselves in this split for Challengers. I think with the recent addition as well from King Fred as the assistant coach will help to iron out a little bit of that the macro that they want to approach these rounds and these maps.
And going forward, Ambrosia, they're kind of leading with a lot more aggression just off the bat. They care more about going through A main, and it's been a lot of action centered around A and using the stars and just creating a lot of chaos in close quarter situations that are trying to overwhelm QOR and maybe get into the heads of the less experienced players and how they make decisions in those quick reaction moments. But this is still an Ambrosia team that are being tested to their limits.
100%. I think this time into their bonus round is, as I said, is not going to be the best buy that they have. But going into the next round, if they lose this one here, they'll still have a pretty healthy buy. And that's where you're going to start seeing a little bit more of the maybe work the counter against a util of Snarly. This is probably one of the maps that it's very difficult for a KJ to hold a defensive site or defensive information against a Tejo, because she has to stay within range of potentially getting info from shops and from streets, and you're going to put them at pretty basic spots unless you want to put them at different ones and just think of where you could place utility that's going to avoid the salvos and could still be quite useful here for the team to hold the anchor on the defensive side. So yes, you may see on paper that it's going to be very difficult to play here for a KJ or a Cypher against a Tejo in general. But, you know, these players are aspiring to be pros. They're already almost at that level themselves. I'm sure they have a workaround, and there's a reason why you're still playing these type of agents against such a strong agent as Tejo.
At least Satellite is putting in the work, because 16 kills. I'm excited. This York player, I'm excited for Ambrosia on this map. Wasn't this Core's choice? And I feel like Pro is one of Ambrosia's stronger maps too, so we were in for a treat no matter what. But we'll start with some mid control there for Ambrosia with KJ Util watching all the hallways they could go down.
Exactly that. And you see the position, right? So the Teo is already potentially looking at using salvos, and it's already using towards the spawn. I love it. Pushing him away, you actually TP the Euro across as well, and now you have a little bit of map control. You break the turret too, and now you can resplit. Now you've inserted basically your Yoru towards the spawn, and you can maybe listen for rotates. But now they're just trying to figure out what they could do here at that minute mark. What information did they grab behind the drone? And they know now that the duelist, Timotino, is holding towards his B site. But the reaction is still trying to group up and try to take him down.
Wow, just to be able to hold your positions and frag, like, this is easy for Core. And even while they got pinged by the drone from Screwface, so this makes things a little scary. It's got to be Glyph that initiates things, at least creates some kind of obstacle, something for Core to shoot at that's not a body. And finally, there's an opening for Ambrosia. And there's all the util from Glyph going out, and the stars coming up, obscuring Core and any sight lines and any chance for them to work together until Snarly has been uncaged. Off the turret, looks for info, has a teammate by his side. Ambrosia are hiding, and they don't have Spike. They haven't planted, and there's 10 seconds left. And Smiley has no health, and he's dead, and Adder's cooked too. That was a really good round for Core to be able to steal away from Ambrosia.
Yeah, and even Adder's just kind of try to save his weapon and not even go for a plant for his teammates, because he probably knows the turret's up there and it could just take him down in one shot. It's still a pretty decent bonus round that they had, though, for Ambrosia to drop 3 rifles with what they had as a buy. We saw a Vandal and 2 Stingers, but I was questioning that play a little bit for Ambrosia. I love the push that Saleh had towards that middle, but as he took over that spot, it just gave it all away. So it just allowed here for, for Core to have a better rotate back, or sorry, to get a better rotate back towards his B site to fight against Ambrosia trying to plant towards B in the end. So a little bit questionable at that point, but they still got the rifles coming through in round number 16. And it's fast for them to take orb control. You're close to getting that Steel Garden up on this side, or if not, the Nightfall from Glyph, which could be huge for the take.
And what was it, the Haunt and the Flash from Yoru you used to get that 8 orbs. So
yeah,
just don't want to over-invest if you're Ambrosia, especially when you haven't really been conditioned of Core really fighting for that 8 orb besides throwing a knife here and there. But based on the positions, Core are looking to maybe flash crunch into mid, and then you have a lurk from Adder hanging around. You got a 2-2 split. Ambrosia are looking at all their options.
This is the insert that I was telling you guys about. So when it comes down to the beginning of the round where you're using both the salvos and the haunt, you're going to get some map control, but then you just have to slow down the tempo to work rotates. So now you're leveraging Satellite. He couldn't escape on time. He dies, but look how he pulled out the defense. You could still Nightfall towards the A site, and there's still only one player holding inside there when these smokes are coming out. Oh, he missed the shot, though.
Sensed the fake, because when Core lost a member at B, they still tried the drone to really make sure A was empty before rotating to A. And that was such a good call from Logan, who sacrificed himself, but really created some delay for Ambrosia. The Nightfall, just to guarantee that plant. They thought the defenders were closer than they were. They still pressure things back, but Snarly makes things difficult. Now at the angle, Darkest has 2 flashes to work and push with Snarly. And it's a 2-2 split from Core on this retake. 2 members left, Glyph and Smiley. Nothing in their back pockets to protect this, except just going past the smoke, walking into the crosshair of Snarly, who ends up securing the round.
That's just unfortunate. I'm going to have to call out Screwface one more time in that round. With the Nightfall, the way that they entered towards the site, yes, it was a shot missed by Adder that could have been supposed to be a free kill on Logan, but it's still Logan, right? You're talking about a duelist that went into an initiator role and flicks for that shot, acceptable. But after the plant, the Nightfall being thrown out by Glyph that gets information on 2 players towards that spawn because he went super deep. You have to expect the other 2 players to be somewhere else around the map that's not going to be towards spawn. So for Screwface to walk down alone towards shop, towards art, and get spotted and picked off the way that he did, he was a line of defense there with the salvos on the pulse plan. He was also the one that was going to catch the players off rotates if you hold down towards the art. That gives a chance now for Core to tie up the game and to break the econ for Ambrosia, which then means that they have now the upper hand of this game, an opportunity to take the lead.
Ambrosia still investing to get that A orb. Now with both Prowlers gone, Core know something's up around A main, so that'll call the attention of Logan. Maybe some shock darts if they need to create any delay with stars replaced by Nerve. Coming around from mid, though. Ambrosia have gotten that for free. And right to the crosshairs of the Outlaw. There's only one sheriff in town. Timotino defends and slaughters Ambrosia. That is the third off an Outlaw. So Glyph is like, okay, well, I guess we got our orb, guys. How are you doing over there?
Yeah, I think the best thing we could have done there, if we were trying to commit and fight and maybe try to use ults, was maybe putting Adder on the A side instead, because they could focus on an orb on that side, create the diversion with Glyph with Prowlers or Haunts up towards Art, and then you could actually get the Steel Garden and play pistol to pistol again into an A side execute. But unfortunately, we went for body peaks, and it's hard to do that against a player such as Timotino. You saw those clean shots that came through. Now you're just gambling, and you're just crossing your fingers and your toes that you can plant here towards this B site, and it's not going to happen.
That's going to build so many ults for Core, as you were already talking about, and how powerful a Hunter's Fury is on a defense like Pearl. Like, and then you're one away from lockdown. Like, this is a fortress that's only getting stronger. It's built brick by brick for Core, but they need to buy themselves a few more insurance rounds, because this is still an extremely close match. And if Core can just sit and hold an angle, they're untouchable. So you got to find out, if you're on the Ambrosia side of things, how you can make them uncomfortable, how you can force them to shift away, whether it's a delay in that space creation or util.
Yeah, or you just plow, because on their side of the court, they have 5 ults. So this is going to be perfect for them to try to salvage that back in their favor. So you're hoping to minimize the amount of ults that you need here to win this round, so you can still go toe-to-toe in the ults on the next round.
That was a dimensional drift, getting info that it's mainly just numbers. We don't care about who, we care about how many. And Ambrosia, no, there's way too many people at B. And yeah, suddenly giving up is, you know, had to go in that deep to get all that info. So hopefully it pays off for Ambrosia, but they have to re-clear through Ray, and that's going to take some time. They have mid for free. Hunter's Fury going to check if anyone's across the way.
Wait, he's already used the salvos for the entry, but I guess he has Armageddon to try to break it towards that spawn, but that was questionable at this point. There's this settle. There's Armageddon. Yeah.
Holy cow. Armageddon, defensive lockdown, offensive cosmic divide, defensive cosmic divide. Like, I didn't think Ambrosia were actually going to try and plant mid lockdown. They thought they had time, and it pays off. And now this is a must-win for Core with how much you threw into this, and you don't have your Star of Darkest. Adder emerges. Timotino makes the correction, and it's the defense that have more on the table. And Smiley catches one, and he's nasty with it. Core will get the defuse halfway, and the salvos force him off. A great job from the IGL of Screwface, just has to secure one final kill to tie things up.
And that, thankfully, is the tucked-in positions from both Smiley and Screwface, who should have backed up a little bit more there, because the plant wasn't at the default spot, so he's going to get hit by the radius of that spike. But it doesn't matter. At least they got the round towards the end, and he manages to get a little bit of a redemption, rather, after the 2 small errors that I mentioned on previous rounds here on their attack. But yeah, I thought it was going to be, you know, leveraging little ults going into this round over here, so you could have full battles on the other end. But it did great orb control on the side of Core, so that's why you saw everybody just unloaded their ults, and it just reset everything towards round number 19.
Ambrosia just laying down the red carpet and using the steps of the Yoru clone to just stress Core. Now they know it's a clone. First, it was smoked off, so weren't really sure. But Core aren't going to change the game plan.
Yeah. It's, again, another one of those insert plays. I think you're going to try to leverage Screwface to use his early drone, try to pull rotates once again with the wall that's watching the flank towards A, and also the fade still there. It has to be some sort of an A finish, unless they're able to get some sort of picks and identify these gaps. A Knife is going to get a lot of information at least, so it gives a responsibility for Adder to maybe catch players off the rotate.
Be an important engagement for Snarly, depending on if Ambrosia start making noise in mid. He's going to just try and stabilize with the backline B and anchor and try to cut them off at the heel once Ambrosia flood in. This is the same game plan for Ambrosia. The 3-2 split. Here's the Prowler leading in and the Haunt. Core playing at the very back of the site. Out of sight, out of mind. Currently smoked off, and Snarly hasn't emerged to do anything about it. waiting for rotates, waiting for Timotino to give them confidence, but Ambrosia have to go toe-to-toe. The fight, the war has already started, and the spike has been dropped. 12 seconds left. The advantage is for Core to just create any more delay. Finally, Snarly comes out to stop this offense from Ambrosia.
That was a big play coming out from Darkus, though, in all the chaos, as he's spotting here this battle that he has against Screwface towards the top. And then here's the spike being planted. He said, Screwface literally goes into the dugout and goes for the wall bang spray just to guarantee the round out here for the defensive side, because it was like, what, 5 seconds remaining into the round before Ambrosia actually went for the plant. Thankfully, there was still a backstab towards the end for the last one to happen, but it started off very well if you're looking at this replay on the hot to get information to deafen some players and allow for them to get the push towards the spawn. But the fight towards the front of the site was lacking a little bit there for Ambrosia, especially with the play here, not being able to push Darkus away from that dugout position. It gives a chance now for Core to maintain the lead. Once again, 10-9 and equal for Ambrosia. And unfortunately, this might be the biggest swing round that just happened on that previous round, because Core could slowly start running away here with this first map.
Winning the huge ult round, that was the one before this, and then closing out the previous round. Core have a few more to go, though, and they've been operating really blind on this defense, just kind of ready to just run away and play for retake. Especially with Logan, it's not going to hit the same way, especially if you're just using a Sonic and not the drone as well. It's keeping that their chance to look back into the site once they do give it up. There's Ambrosia throwing all their Fade Util in and the salvos, and Timotino just on the flank, just playing from main. He got no action at the orb, and now provides such a ruthless angle to pick apart Ambrosia.
Why is there no smoke there on the top of A main? They used it both for the dugout and for Flowers, but you have to use something to confirm somebody towards A main, maybe like a Prowler or something like that as well, to look towards that right. So that at least you have Satellite to be ready to try to fight against the position on that spot. But again, the idea was just to try to plow through and get the plat down, so I'll respect it still for Ambrosia. They have a silver lining at that point to build the economy up and hopefully, you know, take that lead once again here against Core. This is their map pick, and they look pretty good at the very beginning with the flawless 2 rounds that they had in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, it's going to be a very, excuse me, a very important timeout for Ambrosia.
Yeah, for you too, apparently.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute right here.
I'm sorry, guys, he's getting old, but Ambrosia, they have issues. They have had issues closing out maps before. Like, you heard it, and Screwface had admitted that in the interview he had with Sierra. They were up 11-3 against Cupid Academy, the most winnable map you've ever seen, and then somehow lost an 11-3 lead. But they're cool about it. They're still staying positive, but they're aware of the things they have to improve on, and they're aware that they're doing it with the 5th that they weren't even supposed to be, or that they haven't been preparing with. So it's different circumstances for Ambrosia.
Still did very well though as a sub in for Adder, right? He's
for sure
keeping up with the rest of the team so far in terms of the fragging department. He's done a great job anchoring on this B site on the defense. The only thing right now that's timeout that I want to see coming out for Ambrosia, though, is how they could leverage potentially even Glyph even more for these Prowlers for mid control, because this type of like default insert extremities and sell a fake, it's starting to become old news just for the state of this game, at least for now. And I see it now, at least from this change, is that you're trying to add a little bit more on the side of B, but knife came out. Nice little change coming out from Core with the comp. Throwing out the knife at the very beginning, catches all 3 players, and that will also nullify the very early fake that they're trying to sell here towards this B site.
And I don't know how deep the Tejo drone even got, and if it was smoked off, then you just don't know the numbers, but mainly that there's an op from Timotino, and he's getting better at dodging those pings too, so info advantage, I would say, for Core to just mask their positions and their numbers mainly. It's Ambrosia
Trying to seize Tejo, I think. They're pinging towards the dugout for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the game plan might be foiled when you already lose 1 on impact, but
yeah,
at least it's your Sentis. Just the post plans are going to get hairy, but this whole round is looking not so good. Just getting picked before you could even know where the site is. So that's tough.
Yeah, it was a small Hail Mary that they had for Ambrosia, as we just saw here. They tried to go for the C's as Tejo salvos into the dugout to hopefully catch someone like Darkest that's been playing that spot a lot, but this time it was actually Nerve. But unfortunately, it was well read here coming out from the side of QOR. He played outside of the extremity and got a free kill through the smoke right after, where you don't have too much utility to work with towards the end. So with 2 players remaining, or 3 players remaining rather, you're hoping to salvage this this next round and the next 3 to try to push us into overtime. But their attack side, unfortunately, is missing again a little bit of that util towards middle. As we mentioned on paper, this is a perfect map here for Teo to just eliminate the KJ utility and maybe force players to be a little bit more lenient and play more passively outside the perimeters, just like Ambrosia did on the defensive side. But it's not being utilized for that type of conditioning for the side of Ambrosia for now. And it just gives QOR a lot of free will to really stack towards these extremities and keep their util to fight on the reaction on the extremities.
Silence.
Clean shot by Logan.
Yeah, and Logan's just been such a pillar to this team. And yeah, maybe he can't get as crazy of information as someone on the other side, or just using recons, you know, compared to anything else. But man, his shots have been so clean. And playing as far back as he is, you need to hit those. You need to benefit from that lack of map control. Now, Ambrosia, kind of a similar situation as last round. You got the drone up to B. Dimensional drift is going to just guarantee that info, but that pick in mid gives Ambrosia more options, and Satellite keeps decloaking. I think he's going to get more backup than he is, and I think the star came up and might have obscured any ranged help from coming.
Yeah, unfortunately, the second time it comes out of his ult. But here's a big spot here. We pushed up for Timotino. He's going to hear the full rotate.
How many can he take with them? Wait, Screwface. No, not like this.
It's okay. It's okay. But now here's the advantage for Adder. He actually snuck through towards Ivy, so now he could catch the rotates, and Ambrosia has an opportunity to win the round.
Yeah. Hey, at least Timotino is very low, and Screwface still living is so insane. Darkest. Trigger discipline. It's going to help reinforce A. Spike trying to be planted with an Armageddon to seal off that back area. And smokes in place as QOR hesitate on the exact moment, just waiting for shocks to see what they can hear on the other side, what movement they cause, and the KJ util disrupts everything. And Darkest too with shots to the face, and that will give QOR map number 1.
A great start, at least from what we noticed here, coming out from the beginning of the round for Ambrosia, with how Adder had to activate a little bit more. We saw that mid control, and it was actually won here for that sign. But everything else after that, they just seem to keep getting caught by the lack of breaking util moving into these sites towards the end for Ambrosia. So this is a great way for QOR to start off this series with winning the map pick of Ambrosia. And now they're going into Haven, where I think Lemon Kiwi, the Des was mentioned, this would possibly be a 3rd map series, but this might be the reverse. I mean, I guess a 2-0 victory coming out here for QOR, and the Des will prove us wrong.
Yeah, especially after QOR won 13-2 against Shopify Rebellion Gold last week on Haven. Very strong map for them. But also, what a performance out of Darkest, that newest signing from January. But we know and love him from his days on SAT Esports, now on a much happier team. And the way he's fragging, I'd be stoked too. So what a beginning of our map. Of course, after that 6-6 half, how close that got. But we'll see if we'll end things on Haven. We'll see you after the break.
I'd say it's a little bit different. It's a different aspect. It's like picking up any new player, different personalities, different backgrounds, like different amounts of experience. So I'd say it's a challenge in its own aspect. Especially like with Timotino, he's less experienced, hasn't played challengers before, but he's like proven me a lot. He's made me proud. So I'd say just like teaching them what our system is, because every team has different systems. It's like, what is the system for QOR? So that's like been the biggest thing. We've been like preaching that, like, yo, we do things like this way here. Like maybe you did it on this team, but like this is how we do it here. Like we're gonna do stuff like this, right? So just teaching them like our way, like the QOR way. I guess like consistency is like a big one, I'd say. And that's still a big challenge for every single team, including this one. We're still trying to find like our footing, our consistency. But I would just say like the mood's always high, no matter what. We lose a couple rounds and it's like, all right, whatever, like next round mentality. We like to have that like short-term memory loss. Like, who cares? We get 1v5 next round, doesn't matter. We get, I don't know, something happens, op collateral and a clutch. Like, it doesn't matter. We're always going to the next round. We're always in high spirits, and we just try to focus on winning that next round. I would say consistent improvement. We're gonna work hard every single day, day in, day out. We had our first match already. We won map 1. We ended up getting reverse sweeped. Tough loss, but there's so much to learn from these matches, right? You can learn a lot from scrims, but match reps are like so much different. And you just learn so much more, like how people react to certain situations. So I'd say throughout every single match this season, you're going to see improvement. And we are really trying to dominate this season when it comes to the end of it. So maybe week 1, maybe week 2 won't look so good, but by the end of the season, like, we'll look good. We're like low experience as a team. We just started practicing like a few weeks ago as a 5, compared to some other teams who've been together for months, potentially even like last season. So we're still working together. We're still trying to find our footing, but just consistent improvement.
One enemy. Last player standing. 10 seconds. See ya. One enemy remaining.
One down. My ult's ready.
One enemy remaining.
Blocking sight.